This week, we're looking at the utopian vision. Hi, I am Eliziam and welcome to my channel. Andrew, I realised we've made all of these videos about the utopian philosophy, about the technology, but actually we haven't really made a video about the utopian vision and where we see this thing going in the future. So thank you for joining me to have this discussion.
Hi, Eliziam. Thanks for having me back. And yeah, you're right. A year writing about it, but we haven't actually ever really explained why we did it.
So tell me, because you are the originator of this whole thing, what happened? What was the idea that first implanted?
Well, as you know, the original idea came from Star Trek and the vision of a utopian world where everybody existed for the good of humankind. Now, I think that for me, the original vision came from a realization that money can be a bad thing. I think we all love having money in our pockets because it empowers us. It allows us to go and do things. It allows us to have that holiday, to buy a house, to buy a car, to do all the things that we want to do. But it also does a lot of harm. And my vision was a world where we get up in the morning and we do what we enjoy doing. And we do so all day, every day. So that whole idea of waking up in the morning and thinking, oh, I'm doing that today, brilliant. And, you know, doing that instead of the work, rest, repeat in a job that you're trapped in and don't like, you're doing something that's for your own betterment and for the betterment of your community, betterment for humankind.
I completely agree with you. And when you explained that vision to me, although I'm not sure that the fact that it was connected to Star Trek came through, but I totally got it. We spent a long time last year talking, thinking, writing, looking at the inequalities in society. So, I've got a meme. Ready?
Magic finger.
So check this one out. Here we've got two men who are fishing. We've got the rich man and the poor man. Now the poor man is catching his fish. He's putting them in his bucket. And the rich man, he's not bothering to catch fish. He is just stealing the fish from the rich man's bucket. So this illustrates quite well one of the things that we were talking about while we were doing all of our research and thinking last year, this idea of inequality and how the average person, the poor man, if you like, can work really, really hard throughout their life and yet never feel like they're getting somewhere, always feel as though their bucket is being depleted. And I suppose a time like this, maybe it's being felt more than ever. It's also this idea of never being able to trust that that level in the hierarchy. So we've got this kind of system where we live in a world which is entirely constructed around money. You know, you mentioned it in the intro, like how we spend our whole lives dedicated to being a slave to the grind, being in the rat race, that you've got to try and constantly achieve better, higher, more, because there is this kind of addiction to money, an addiction to achieving. But actually, if we look at it properly, achievement and money are not the same thing. It doesn't mean the same thing. So you could be highly accomplished in something that you don't absolutely get paid for, and there are some very rich people who aren't actually that accomplished. So the two don't equate, and I think that we need to uncouple those, but you know, that's just a personal bugbear. So we spent some time talking about how there is a huge inequality in society, and you're right, we are slaves to our jobs. If you talk to people about how much they enjoy what they do, there's not a lot of people that will be able to tell you that they are fully engaged, that they are giving their profession or chosen walk of life everything that it possibly deserves and requires. And I think for me, it feels like one of the reasons that that's the case is that it's really easy to get trapped in a situation where you don't like your job, but you earn a certain amount of money and you have to pay the mortgage and you have to pay the bills and you've got to support the kids. And there's so many other things that you need to think about. It's not actually that easy to move from one situation to another.
Utopianism is about compassion, collaboration, and creativity. And the first law of utopia is that we are all the best, most robust, most versatile stores of value. And that value, that energy, is our experience, our ability to learn, our skills, our talents, everything we can do. And we start off with potential energy, the ability to do something, and we can convert that energy into actual things, into actions, into product, into services, into whatever we're doing within the community. But those things can be things that we enjoy doing. We don't have to be locked into a job that we don't like doing. And we can work collaboratively within the community. If you think about Scribal and the book that we're currently publishing, that's entirely within the community. So the poets, the editor, the illustrators, the book cover designer, the whole thing will be done within the community. Now, I know that's a very small scale example, but there's no reason why communities can't again work together in that sort of cottage industry, small community style to actually create things that are for their own benefit and for the benefit of the world as a whole. And I know that when we first started this idea, it was a bit out there. It was a bit off to one side and not really seen as a mainstream view. But now you see these same ideas being voiced by so many people, by Russell Brand on his channel, by some quite big names, and it is getting some momentum. It is getting some traction. Realistically, I don't think that my full vision or our full vision for the utopian dream will happen in our lifetime. But if you plant the seeds, they will hopefully grow.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, all it means is that we're going to be really, really busy, and that's okay. Now, you mentioned Russell Brand. He did an amazing video, and maybe I'll link it in the comments, actually. It was all about how people are leaving their jobs in droves in the States. And certainly we've seen the same thing happen over here. There are many, many, many jobs for really essential posts that are being advertised and people don't want to take. Certainly for big corporations, people have just decided that that's not for them. Now, we could make a whole video on what people are doing instead of that. But I think that this is the beginning of the change that we're starting to see. This idea that we're not relying on our old relics of industrialization and this patriarchal structure, this class structure that we have grown up with, that our society has developed to get us to this point. I can feel the tides of change and that things are about to be different.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you put in is what you get out. It doesn't make any difference how much money you've got in the bank account, because ultimately, if you're not putting something into the community, then your value is here. Whereas if you put a lot into the community, it's here, and that's a proper, true measure of your value within a community.
So this is something that we've spent a long time talking about as well. This idea that your position in society is very much related to what wealth you came into this world with, what family you came into this world with, whether you were connected to the right people, whether you had enough family wealth to afford you the education that you needed to be able to have that fluidity and to reach your full potential. But actually, the system that we've created is different because it doesn't rely on education in the most traditional way. So educational establishments developed, and their purpose was to do education en masse, to be able to teach people a certain amount of stuff in a very efficient way. The problem with that is that it doesn't treat every single person as an individual. And so if you're going through a school system at whatever level, you are learning the same things as everyone else. Now, that's useful up until a point. And I suppose that's why we have the national curriculum. So that's an agreed set of things in the UK that you need to know before you become a person, a grown-up. But actually, once you kind of reach that level and you are able to follow your own direction, isn't it a wonderful thought that there would be learning resources and information for you to develop as a person that you are destined to be? So YouTopian can do this. And we were talking this morning about how, as a person, when you need to do something, you've got two options. You can either do it yourself, or you can find someone to do it for you. And that may mean paying them for that service. If you do it yourself, it might be something that you already know about, or you might need to acquire a new skill. And we're so lucky to be living in a world where actually, if you've got access to the internet, you can teach yourself most things. If you just put into YouTube, how to ... you'll get a list of videos showing you how to do so many things, which is amazing. But then let's take that a step further. And the people who are making those YouTube videos, those how-to videos inside communities, are getting paid in salt and pepper currency for creating, for adding value, for adding to an education. And then it's possible to either watch those videos for free or to purchase them for salt and pepper, so that the creator gets paid again for their contribution. So that gives you access to a broad range of topics, and it could be about any subject whatsoever. And you've got the opportunity to learn about exactly what you want. And the people that are making the videos are getting rewarded for being teachers, for being educators. So that's one idea about how YouTopian can increase social mobility, because the amount of educational resources there is just vast. But then also thinking about work and the way that you get stuck in a job and you have to keep on doing that job because you're getting paid and you've got the mortgage to pay and you've got the kids to feed and you've got the house to keep. And you've also got to keep up with the Joneses. You've got to make sure you've got the right car and the right holiday. But actually, if we break that mold and we are living in a system where you're being paid for putting effort in, and you can choose how you want to spend your time and where you want to focus your effort, and you're engaged because you are genuinely feeling enthusiastic about the things that you're doing, then it means that people are going to be putting in all of their effort and being their most creative and best self, doing the things that they know are needed.
Yeah, we're trying to create an equitable system, and we're not saying that it's bad to be born wealthy, but we're also saying it's not a stigma to be poor. It's a question of your true wealth is your ability. And you know, the whole utopian concept in terms of the universe fits very nicely with everything you were just saying. The whole idea of this this master seed, what we call the single point of knowledge, which sits in the middle of the utopian universe. And like the expanding universe, what that's constantly doing is it's reaching out and saying, where are the gaps in my knowledge? Okay, we need a community that can grow some knowledge in this area. We need a community that can give us produce in this area. We need a community that gives us products in this area. And just as all of those branches are going out to build new communities, the information, the products, the produce, the systems, the services are all going into the central repository that can then be redistributed to where it's needed. And so you might have somebody over here who decides they want to actually learn about X, Y, Z, and it's there, it's in that repository. And you're creating a supply chain because we're rewarding people for everything that they do. regardless of what it is within the community. It has a value, like posting a video about how to do something, posting some research on how to do something, posting some books because it's entertainment, growing some potatoes, we always use potatoes as an example, sewing some clothes, knitting some woolly hats, anything within those communities. When you actually start co-collaborating between those communities, you start creating self-sufficient ecosystems that actually can exist as an island of sanity outside of the world that we currently know at the moment as the rat race. And it can work. It absolutely can work. We're already seeing from the work that we've done with Utopian that this is possible. I know that there are a lot of people out there who are saying, oh, you can't do that because it won't work for this reason, you can't do that because it won't work for that reason. I've got news for those people. We're actually doing this. We wrote for a year on how to do it. We started doing it at the end of November, and it's working.
It really is working. And I'm sure you won't mind me saying this. One of those people who was saying, this can't be done, we've got these systems in place that work, this is how life is. One of those people was Tim, my husband. And I explained the idea, the philosophy behind this. And he said, no, that it's never going to work, because who's going to fix the roads? Who's going to collect the rubbish, ... And it's true, we do live in a system, we live in a world where we rely on local government organisations to carry out those municipal functions. And we spent a long time thinking. I mean, I wrote down a list of questions that he was asking, and we basically went through and made sure that what we were doing was going to answer each one of those points, because they were very valid concerns. And we've actually built into Utopian a taxation system. Maybe, Andrew, do you want to talk about how it works?
Yeah, I mean, we don't think about it in true sense of tax. I mean, the first thing is that unlike an ordinary economy, we're not a debt economy, so we don't actually have debt. And you mine currency, or you gain currency in one of two ways. You either trade, or you gain currency by being engaged. So that might be anything from being on our social groups and commenting or posting information. It might be by putting some publication in the library. It might be by providing a service, whatever. Or it might actually trade actively. But we have a natural gravity for our algorithm. TSOP, total state of present, it has a natural gravity of 0. So if you cease to be engaged, if you cease to trade, if you cease to do things within the community, then actually your currency slowly starts to shrink. You don't maintain the same level of currency by doing nothing. You have to constantly be engaged within of the community. Now, what happens is as currency shrinks on those people who are not engaged, it goes, the amount that's taken out of their account actually goes into a central account, which is then recirculated back out where it's needed. So those who perhaps become ill and can't be engaged because they're ill, those who become unable for other reasons to be engaged, it might be for other things that are for the good of the community as a whole. And certainly as we move forward and salt and pepper, our currency becomes more usable across a broader range of communities. It could be that we need services that need to be carried out that can actually be paid for in our own currency. It would be very, very useful. So yeah, that's effectively how that works. And with regards to things like roads and so on, we know that these things can be done by communities. I certainly have experienced within communities where houses have been built away from the main road, and those communities have come together to build a road and maintain that road out to their houses. I'm not saying, and I know we have different ideas on timelines, but I'm not saying that these are things that are necessarily going to become mainstream in our lifetime. But I do think that the concept of small communities working together, relevance-based, where interest is the point of engagement, you end up with happy, compassionate, engaged, strong communities. What we're seeing within Scribal is a family feel. We're seeing people grouping together, strongly supporting one another, strongly encouraging one another to be better and to do things in a way that they enjoy. You know, be the best potential version of yourself. Don't just sit there and think, oh, you know, I wish I could do that, or you know, one day I'll write that book, or I tell you what, I think I could be a poet if I really tried. Don't think about it, do it.
Just do it, exactly that. And I think it's important to point out that we're not building a system that is going to be switched overnight, that we're going to lose the world's economies and utopian is going to take its place. I mean, we could, but that's not the plan. It's like these two systems can exist for as long as they need to at the same time. There is no reason that we cannot have a system which is based on bartering and respect and coming together and doing things together, and local communities that are creating things and selling them to other people. There's no reason why this can't exist at the same time as our traditional economy. I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't a conflict of interest almost between capitalism and this new way of living. In fact, I'm not going to call it a new way of living, because it's not. It's an old way of living, but with a new twist, that it is a digital form of a bartering society instead. So there's no reason they can't coexist, even though they don't necessarily promote the same thing.
No, and it's also important to point out that whilst at the moment what we do is digital, because that's the best way for us to join the dots, to have communities which are spread globally, to check the data and tweak the algorithm and make sure that everything works. Utopianism as a philosophy would work just as well as the bricks and mortar. It would work within communities that are actual villages. In fact, it would work very, very well as a bricks and mortar village. I would love to see that. And I'd love to see that in my lifetime.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
It really would.
Okay, I think that was a great look at where Utopian can go in the future. If you would like to get in touch, then you will find all of the normal ways underneath to contact us. There is just enough time for me to thank you for liking, subscribing, and putting that alert notification on so that you never miss an episode. And don't forget, if you like this channel, don't tell me, tell your friends. I'll see you next time.